You are Locked On Giants Postcast, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Giants Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And today, the San Francisco Giants close out the final Battle of the Bay with a 1-0 win over the Oakland Athletics. And it was a Logan Webb masterclass out there on the mound as he went the distance, a 5-hit complete game shutout for Webby, proving again why he is the bona fide ace of this Giants staff. The Giants offense really gave him absolutely zero breathing room as they only managed to scratch across one run, which came in the 5th inning on a Brett Wisely sac fly. Logan Webb is quite simply the freaking man. We'll break it all down, but first I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, if you aren't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks also for listening on the Locked On Giants podcast feed, however you're getting the show. We appreciate you tuning in, and make sure to check out the Locked On Giants Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Ben Kaspick does a great job. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Logan Webb, man, as I said, he's the man, dude. Like, there's no other way to put it. He got back to his roots today. You know, he threw a ton of changeups out there. It's how he did most of his damage on the mound. And the A's just really couldn't hit him. As I said, 9 innings, only 5 hits, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. Logan Webb's ERA on the season down to 3.49. He leads the major leagues in innings pitched. He's been so good this year for the Giants. I still think he's got an outside chance at winning the NL Cy Young. He's coming off his first All-Star selection. And I mean, this just adds to his resume. I mean, when you got to have it, this fan base was reaching a boiling point within the last couple days. And Logan Webb just came over and just like lifted the lid off the pot and let some of that steam out tonight as he just shut down the A's. I mean, the one thing that cures all fan base turmoil is winning. And the one thing that the Giants can do to kind of get this fan base back on board after a trade deadline that was lackluster and left a lot to be desired, after a really bad first half of the season, after all these free agents have been underperforming, the best way to remedy all of this is if this team starts winning games. And Logan Webb, it's one game, but it can start a rally, a start like this where it's an emotionally charged game. It's the very last time the Oakland Athletics and the San Francisco Giants will play against each other. I mean, maybe they're going to call themselves the Oakland Athletics next year. I think that would be really dumb if they did. That would be a lot of backlash from A's fans, I think. And especially when they're playing in Sacramento, nowhere near Oakland. And don't even bring up the 49ers right now playing in Santa Clara, or I will literally explode on this podcast. So we're not going to go into that at all. But I don't think that they're going to have that same moniker, the Oakland Athletics, next season. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But point being, it's a big game tonight, and it couldn't be more fitting for Logan Webb to be the guy who pitched this game. I just had the NBC Sports Bay Area feed on right before I flipped on the postcast, and I saw Logan Webb's interview, the very brief one that it was, and he talked about how very openly, and he's been open about this, how he grew up as an A's fan. Logan Webb, an A's fan, a Raiders fan, and that's who he's been rooting for, and the Kings too. He just can't get any of the teams right, man. We had 0-for-3 on that one, but we forgive him. We love him. He's obviously a Giants fan now. He's on the Giants, but he acknowledged that he was really happy that he was able to be the final Giant to start in a game against the Oakland Athletics, and that it meant a lot to him. And Webb really hasn't pitched well against the A's in his career. Lifetime, his average is pretty mediocre against the A's. So it was cool to see him come out and have a nice game tonight. And I mean, he wasn't ever going to have a chance to pitch against his hometown team, or not hometown, but his childhood team, the team he grew up rooting for. In his career, he had a 5.68 ERA coming into this one with a 1-2 record in his 5 starts against Oakland. And this was a lot better outing, obviously. ERA of exactly 0 in tonight's outing. So Logan Webb getting it done when they needed to. As I said in the top of the show, the Giants One run came from Brett Wisely in the 5th inning. It started out with a Mike Yastrzemski single, Marco Luciano single, and Yaz running well, gets all the way over to third on that single. Then a Wisely sac fly, gave that one a ride to deep center to score the run for the Giants, allowed Luciano to get to second before the Giants stranded him in scoring position. They didn't have a ton of base runners tonight, but they still managed to go 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position and left 5 on base. Not a good night for the Giants. It was offensively at the dish, left a lot to be desired, the same way that they've looked for the majority of the season, especially out of this All-Star break. They have looked as lifeless as ever. This offense just cannot get it done. I mean, Ramos 0 for 4. Wade had that one double, but was stranded at second. The Giants just kept stranding runners at second all over the place. In the bottom of the 2nd inning, Matt Chapman leadoff double, but couldn't bring him in. They stranded him at third base. Lamont Jr. ripped a 2-out double in the bottom of the 3rd, stranded him there as well. And I mean, the Giants were just not able to do a damn thing offensively, and their one run came off a small ball. You hit a couple singles, you get a sac fly, and you score the run. That is what this offense needs to start doing more of, because right now it seems like they're living and dying by the home run, and this is a team that doesn't hit very many home runs, so that's not gonna work very well going forward. You can't rely on, I mean, it's how many times does Logan Webb go out and get 2 runs or less of run support? And he's expected to do this. I mean, this guy basically has to turn in a complete game shutout for the Giants to win this game. I was kind of curious if they were going to go to Doval in the 9th inning there, and I'm not so sure that Bob Melvin sticking with Logan Webb is a vote of confidence for Webb, or a sign that he doesn't trust Doval in a 1-run game, in a 1-0 game that is I mean, razor thin margins in this one. And I don't blame him for not trusting Doval at this point. He has not had very many clean innings lately. I mean, it's been few and far between that he doesn't put a base runner on, and putting the tying run on base just kind of voluntarily. That's what it seems like you're signing up for. If you put Doval in this game, it's not going to work out super well for the Giants. And so Bob Melvin, credit him. I thought he should have stuck with Logan Webb, and he did. I tweeted out in the 8th inning, Bob Melvin needs to let Logan Webb finish this game, and credit Melvin for letting his starters go, because he's had a pretty short leash with a lot of them this year. And this, I think, was maybe it's a little bit of both, a little bit of losing faith in Doval on Bob Melvin's part, but it's obviously, you can't deny that he absolutely has confidence in his ace, and I'm sure was happy to see him go out there and do what he did. I'm curious to see what Bob Melvin has to say on the post game today. I'll definitely be checking that out later. This game has the potential to be, I'm not going to say it has the potential to be a turning point for the Giants. We've said this multiple times. They've had multiple points in the season where they could have used it as a springboard to keep going with the momentum, but maybe this win sets them up for a road trip, a successful road trip. We can only hope. This Giants team has been really bad on the road this year, and this homestand was nice. They only had the one loss to the A's yesterday, and you split the final Bay Bridge series 1-1, which it seems like the Giants always split this Bay Bridge series with the A's. I feel like it's always 1-1 at the end of this 2-game series. It just seems to go that way every year. Very strange, very strange. The Giants, they win this one by the skin of their teeth, 1-0. Logan Webb basically willing the Giants to a victory all by himself. And he did it the same way that he always does it, with a lot of ground balls. And I mean, he had 6 strikeouts, which is a little bit more than he usually goes for. But I mean, 106 pitches in a complete game is very, very solid. I mean, as far as groundouts go, Webb got 14 of them. So, I mean, he was just doing what he does, 14 groundouts. And he faced, let's see, how many batters did this guy face? He faced 34 batters. So 14 groundouts on 34 batters is pretty solid, man. I mean, Logan Webb doing his thing up there. I mean, that shouldn't come as any surprise to anybody, as he's in the top 5% of all major league pitchers with a 57.7% ground ball rate. He's in the top 4 of all starting pitchers in ground ball rate in Major League Baseball. This is just who he is. This is just who he is. It's who he's been, and it's who he's going to continue to be, because pitchers like this tend to continue to be able to pitch like that for a long time. One other interesting note on that Logan Webb postgame that I heard, he said that his next goal was to do a Greg Maddux, a complete game in under 100 pitches. Today, he said he accomplished his goal of a complete game in sub 2 hours, which is absolutely bonkers. And I mean, you have to be very happy if you're an infielder playing behind Logan Webb. I mean, you are involved. There is no time for you to like get distracted or lose focus at all. Like every pitch is coming rapidly. I mean, he's getting the ball and he's firing it back in. So you're constantly locked in. He's getting ground balls all over the place. So you know you got to be ready for one your way. How about Matt Chapman with that great play down the third baseline in the ninth inning there? A leadoff batter roped one down the third baseline, and Chapman made a diving stop, snared that ball before it even hit the ground for the first out of the inning. A great play by Matt Chapman, who, by the way, leads the league in defensive run saves for third baseman. So he's been pretty solid in the field. It's his bat that hasn't been quite what the Giants have wanted it to be. He did, as I said, hit a double in today's game, and the Giants weren't able to bring him in. So he was doing everything that he could today, at least Matt Chapman was, but I'd like to see more consistency from him at the plate still. He's not ever really been a super consistent batting average guy, but he still has consistently shown power. And I mean, he has been hitting the ball hard this year. That's one thing he always does. Swing hard, hit hard. But it hasn't been translating to a ton of extra base hits and home runs for Chapman. His double today, I mean, that was a nice rip, but I want to see more of that. And we got to talk about, on the other side, we should take a quick break here, but we got to talk about how pathetic it is that this Giants offense is getting shut down by Ross Stripling. It's incredibly frustrating to watch a former, I guess, forever Giant who was just absolutely terrible last year, just a dumpster fire every time he was on the mound, go out against the Giants and do this. I mean, how much did we see that curveball just get absolutely lit up last year, and the Giants basically couldn't hit it tonight? Stick with us on the Locked On Giants postcast. We're going to vent a little bit about how bad this Giants offense has been on the other side. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll be right back. Today's show is sponsored by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. With PrizePicks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 while watching Team USA rack up the gold medals this summer. You can make a PrizePicks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and more in as little as 60 seconds. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and you're locked in. If you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from lowering select players' stat projections on Tuesdays, we love those Taco Tuesdays, to helping your lineup hit or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $1,000. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Welcome back to the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and today the Giants win 1-0 as Logan Webb goes the distance. A complete game shutout. They gave up 5 hits tonight, but scattered them. Did his Logan Webb thing where he scatters ground balls and scatters base runners and works out of jams, and that's just who this guy is. Gets double plays when he needs them. That's who he is. He actually didn't get any double plays tonight, but came close a couple times, but the Giants weren't able to turn it. Tyler Fitzgerald also had an error in this one. Logan Webb was able to overcome it. I thought that had the potential to be a costly error there in that last of the 8th as Logan Webb, or the top of the 8th rather, as there was a ground ball to short with 2 outs, and it rolled up Fitzgerald's arm. It hit him right in the heel of the glove, and it allowed another batter to come up in that inning. And with Logan Webb sitting at 95 pitches, I thought, if this inning gets away from him a little bit, he has to throw, 7 to 10 more pitches. We might not be able to see Logan Webb in the 9th, but credit Webby, as that next batter only saw 1 pitch. Logan Webb got out of it just as quickly as he got into trouble. So worked out for him. And he was able to overcome that error by Tyler Fitzgerald at shortstop, who is a utility player. He's not going to be an everyday shortstop. But right now, the Giants don't really have another choice, because the other option is Marco Luciano. And I guarantee you, if Tyler Fitzgerald's not making the play, neither is Marco Luciano. So it's it's been a kind of a mixed bag of defense at shortstop this year. Nick Ahmed was nice, and then he went to the Dodgers, and then there was the Nick Ahmed revenge game, which I think was actually the last Logan Webb start. It was, because that was the one game that we didn't do the postcast because I was too busy ripping my pants at a wedding on Thursday of last week. But it felt like a long time since I've watched Webby pitch, and I was trying to figure out why. And then I remembered, because I didn't get my full Giants Logan Webb action last week. So I'm glad I kind of not glad I missed Giants Dodgers, you know what I mean? But I'm glad that this was the Logan Webb start that I saw as his first start, my first start that I saw Logan Webb pitch in after the All-Star break. And it's a good rebound for him, because he's been kind of reeling lately, but not nearly as bad as this Giants offense has been struggling. They only managed 4 hits tonight, man. And in that one run, as I said, came on that sac fly. They were able to get productive outs in that one situation, but for the rest of the game, they weren't able to. I mean, you get a leadoff double early in this one, and you just leave the guy out there. That's inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. If with the leadoff double, you don't even need a hit to score that run. All you got to do is get a productive ground out and a sac fly, and ta-da, you're on the board. And I know that I'm making this sound a lot easier than it is. Obviously, the opposing pitcher knows that's what you're probably looking to do, and they're going to try to not give that up. However, you got to find a way to make this happen. It's just every night, it seems like this offense just sputters every night. You can't have any sort of consistency. I mean, this was pathetic. Luciano, Yastrzemski, Chapman, and Wade, the only guys in this lineup who picked up hits tonight. Luciano's been hitting pretty well since he came back up. I mean, obviously, we know that he does that very well. He hits consistently. I think he deserves to move up in the order. I have absolutely no problem with Marco Luciano's bat. It's his glove that I have a major issue with, because defense still matters in this league. But of course, with Jorge Soler shipped back to Atlanta, it opens the door for Luciano to be the everyday DH at this point. And I don't think that's a bad solution for this Giants team. Yes, he doesn't have the same home run power as Jorge Soler, but his bat to ball skills immensely better than Jorge Soler's have been. I mean, how often have we seen Soler just strike out at a pitch that, like, from out of the pitcher's hand, you could tell was not a strike? And if I can tell that from sitting on my couch, I really hope he can tell that by standing in the batter's box. And a lot of times this year, Soler was just swinging freely at a lot of junk that was in the dirt, multiple feet outside of the strike zone. I don't think we're going to see as much of that from Luciano. And I hope he moves up in the order. One thing that continues to baffle me is why Michael Conforto, who is batting .223 and has an OPS of barely over 700, why is he in the heart of the order still? Why every time when Michael Conforto is in the lineup, is he batting like 5th, which he batted tonight? I don't understand, man. I really don't get why this guy wasn't moved at the deadline. He's got an expiring contract, and I mean, maybe they just couldn't move him. Maybe the deal just wasn't there. I'm not sure, but I'm getting pretty tired of watching his at-bats. They're pretty non-competitive. He feels like a lesser version of Mike Yastrzemski. He's Mike Yastrzemski who doesn't run as good and doesn't have as good of a glove. That's what Michael Conforto is to me. You got a lot of guys similar to him throughout this lineup. I mean, I know Mark Canha's here now, and so maybe he'll get some at-bats. And I mean, I think he's going to end up playing first a lot more than playing left, where Conforto's playing, but he can play at the corners. I don't know, man. All I know is I'm very uninspired by Michael Conforto's at bats lately. I just don't want to see him in the middle of this lineup anymore. I really don't. A couple days ago, I did say that he was having a bad season against lefties, and that was inaccurate. I should remedy that. He is batting about 300 against left-handers this season in sparse playing time. But against righties, he's terrible. He's batting like 200. So that's what he's supposed to do well, right? Is he's supposed to hit, the opposite. He's a lefty, so he's supposed to hit righties good. Like that's the general, at least the Gabe Kapler way of thinking. Speaking of Gabe Kapler, it's very weird seeing Darren Ruff in the stands. I had to do like a double take real quick. I thought Gabe Kapler was sitting in the stands watching a Giants game. I was very confused. And then I just realized, oh no, that's just Darren Ruff. They swear to God, those two people look so similar. And it's so funny that their time with the Giants was like perfectly coincided with each other. I mean, and Darren Ruff, I mean, he's got to live in the forever Giant lexicon, because one of the greatest Giants calls of all time. Dwayne Kuiper's "rough is on the move" was one of the best calls that I've ever heard still. And I mean, what a weird time. What a weird time in Giants history when you had Darren Ruff and like Alex Dickerson and all these random dudes who like were just stocky and could just mash the ball but didn't really mash the ball that well. A very weird time in Giants history. But anyways, getting off track here. But Darren Ruff was at the yard today. So was Brandon Belt. It was cool to see Brandon Belt milling around pregame with some of the Giants hitters while they were taking BP. And I mean, that's a guy that I have no problem with hanging around the club. I actually thought that the Giants might kick the tires on Brandon Belt earlier this year when they had all those injuries at first base with Lamont Wade Jr. going out and Wilmer Flores being banged up. I thought that he would have been a good fit. Now they got Mark Canha. That kind of, he can play first. So no Brandon Belt, I guess. But that's fine. We got to take a quick break here. This Giants offense is really frustrating me. At least the Darren Ruff thing kind of gave me something to get distracted with, so I wasn't completely frustrated talking about this Giants offense, because I feel like I yelled a lot last night, man, and I don't want to yell again tonight. I just don't want to. Giants won. We don't need to do any more yelling today. Got it all out of the system yesterday. But Logan Webb, man, we got to talk more about how he did his magic on the mound today, and he went back to the changeup. We'll break it down on the other side, but the Logan Webb changeup, one of the most valuable pitches in all of baseball last season, it started to get away from it, leaned back on it tonight, and you saw the results. Stick with us on the other side of the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll be right back. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. And did I mention it's free? Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. Welcome back to the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. The Giants today finish off the very last Battle of the Bay, the final iteration of the Bay Bridge series, with a 1-0 win over the Oakland Athletics. And I feel like just because we only have 2 games against the A's all season long, I gotta say, Fisher and Cavill and all their cronies, I just throw them all into a volcano, man. Throw every single one of them into a volcano. The A's deserve to stay in Oakland, and it frustrates me that they're leaving. Even though I am a Giants fan, I've always been a Giants fan. But the A's make baseball in the Bay Area better, and it's very frustrating to see a sport that I love, because at the end of the day, we all just love baseball, right? And it's very frustrating to see the sport that I love so much just be taken out of like the public lexicon of things in the Bay Area. Like, the Bay Area deserves 2 baseball teams, and this is sad. It's a very sad day, I think, in baseball. And I mean, Logan Webb, I'm glad that he was the guy to be able to start this final game against the A's. Grew up an A's fan. It's fitting, right? And I mean, dude finally has a great outing against him. He hasn't had very many good outings against them in his career, but tonight, a complete game, 5-hit shutout. And as I said, he did it with the changeup. He threw it 54 times on his 106 pitches. 51% of the time, he was just filling it up with that changeup. He had a 27% swing and miss rate on it, but that's not what he does with his changeup. With his changeup, he's just trying to get soft contact, and guess what? That's exactly what he did. Average contact on that, average exit velocity, I should say, on that changeup was just 83.4 miles an hour, with minimum exit velocity down below 50, 49.5. So that actually might have been the ball that rolled over to Fitzgerald that ended up being an error and a base runner. But point being, Webby was out there just pitching to contact, nice soft stuff that you can't do a whole lot with out there on the corners, and complementing it with that sinker. You look at his other pitches that he's been throwing a lot more of lately, mainly the sweeper and the four-seam fastball. He did not really throw those today. He threw the sweeper only 9 times and the four-seamer 4 times. That's it. Everything else was two-seamer and changeup. And that's where he makes his money. This is who Logan Webb is. And in that postgame, you heard him say he knows he needed to get back to that he's been messing around with doing some other stuff, and that he's been trying to strike guys out just way too much. And that all he needed to do was go out there and be himself, throw his fastball changeup combo, and that's what he did today. I mean, 51% of his pitches were changeups and 37% were sinkers. So quick math, don't hold me to this, but I think that's 88%. I think I can do that math, kind of. Don't quote me on this, but 88% of his pitches tonight were either fastball or sinker, or fastball or changeup. I mean, that's amazing. That's how he should be pitching every single night. He said at the end of the game he wanted to go out there and throw Greg Maddux, meaning he wanted to have a complete game at under 100 pitches. Well, what was Greg Maddux doing up there? He was fastball changeup all day long. That was who that guy is or was, and that's who Logan Webb is too. And I think that he can actually do that in his career. He's probably one of the only current big league pitchers who even has a chance at doing that. But I mean, Logan Webb really got back to using that changeup today, which he's been really moving away from in recent weeks. I mean, even just this year, he hasn't been relying on it as much as he has in years past. Last year, it was his most thrown pitch. He threw it 300 more times than any other pitch in his arsenal. And this year, he's thrown it about 200 times less than his sinker. He's only thrown it about 31% of the time this season. Last year, 41% of the time. So he's been ticking that up again. I mean, the sweeper this year also is being used at around 22%. It was used around the same rate last year, but it's just a different kind of feel when you aren't throwing that changeup as much. And maybe he threw it a little bit too much last year. Hard to say that though, with the way that it became literally the most valuable pitch in baseball based on earned runs. And it has the potential to do that again this year. So, I mean, I hope that he continues this trend. I hope he keeps throwing the changeup, because that's when he's at his best, is when he's doing what he did tonight. When that's the pitch that's on and dominant, it's solid. I mean, his the batting average against it this year, the big difference is this year hitters are hitting 292 against that changeup. Last year, just 225. So it is a little bit different. The swing and miss rate is about the same. It's slightly lower. It's about 2%, 3% lower this year on that changeup than it was last year. But that's not a dramatic difference. I mean, the exit velocity is up a couple miles an hour. It's largely seems like the same pitch, but it just hasn't been as effective for him. I think it's partially because of how he's been using his pitches and mixing in things. He's been trying to mess around with that four-seamer a little bit this season, and obviously the sweeper he's been using pretty effectively as well. He's been using that one a lot. There's been some games where he's thrown the sweeper more than the changeup. I don't like when he does that. I don't think that's when he's at his best. His last couple starts, he's been kind of middling around a little bit. But today he got back to Logan Webb we know and love, which is a guy who's going to go up there and give you a complete game shutout when you got to have it, when the franchise is not in a good state, when fans are angry with the way that the trade deadline went, with the way that the first half of the season went, with the way that this team has played since the All-Star break, seeming like the only team that they can beat is the Colorado Blanking Rockies. That's not good. That's my expert analysis, is that's not good. And the thing that remedies all of this, like I said earlier in the show, is a win. Logan Webb going out there and getting a win for the Giants today. I think this one matters, man, a little bit more than just another regular season game. This one kind of starts to smooth over things with how fans have been feeling. If you have more games like this in the second half and the Giants are able to make the playoffs, maybe it helps, I guess, with some of the other things that some of the other structural issues with this franchise, some of the obviously the disgruntled fan base with the general manager, with Farhan, and all the other problems that this organization has right now. The number one way to remedy all of these issues is winning. And Logan Webb is pretty damn good at that. He showed you again today why he's the ace of this staff with a 5-hit complete game shutout. And again, I said this earlier in the show, but I'm going to say it again. I'm very glad that Bob Melvin stuck with Logan Webb in the ninth, because Camilo Doval has been an adventure lately in the ninth inning, pretty much this whole season, but especially lately. Seems like he can't have a clean inning where even if he's got his stuff going, he still might walk a guy or still might give up a little single up the middle. He's given up so many infield singles too. I mean, a lot of those have been a result of Camilo not being able to field his position and things like that. But I mean, I don't know about you guys. I trusted Logan Webb a lot more today in this ninth inning with this 1-run lead than the thought of going to Camilo Doval in the ninth. And that's troubling. That concerns me, especially since this guy was, since this guy was always so dominant last year and an all-star for the Giants. And I really like Camilo Doval. I love his pitching style. I like watching him pitch. He's fun. I hope he gets back to being that guy again, but right now he's just not that guy. And the Giants didn't unload him at the trade deadline. So let's just hope he figures it out before the end of the season. We'll see where the Giants go from here. Off day tomorrow. And I should mention, because I keep mentioning this in like game time reads and things like that when I do them, I always plug the Grateful Dead at the Sphere. And man, oh man, I was so bummed because I did not think I was going to be able to get out there. But shout out my mom, my dad, and my girlfriend for teaming up to be able to send me to the Sphere tomorrow on the Giants off day to go see Dead and Company. And man, I am so ready for this. I am hopping on a plane to Vegas early tomorrow morning, but don't worry, we'll be back in time for the postcast on Friday when the Giants hit the road, and we'll come to you live with the postgame. And I'll be fresh off the Dead and Company show, so just bear with me in that show. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, should be a fun Giants off day for me. Hope you guys get to do something fun on the Giants off day as well too. We'll be here live on Friday either way. So thanks for tuning in. That's all the time we got for you on today's show. Giants win 1-0 in the final iteration of the Battle of the Bay. That's all the time we got for you on the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll see you next time. Peace.